Hi everyone, our topic is about Minoan Eruption. Minoan Eruption is a volcanic eruption on Santorini during the Minoan period. Occurring around 1600 BC, this massive volcanic eruption was one of the largest recorded in the ancient world. It spread throughout the Aegean and the Mediterranean regions and affected the Minoan civilization. We want to analyze how volcanic eruption affected Minoan civilization, and we also want to explore potential connections between volcanic eruption and legends such as Atlantis. This is our data source. This is our entity relationships diagram. We will explain our entity relationship diagram when we introduce our function.
Then I will explain how we create our 3D model. We have gone through some research and viewing numerous studies. We found out that there is limited research available on the terrain before eruptions, and there is no contour map we can use for this project. And additionally, the prediction about the terrain in that time were often inconsistent. So based on this reason, we compiled an estimate terrain map by ourselves. And when we combine these studies, we have presented the terrain map, the contour map, and the digital elevation model, the last one. This visualization help us and the audience better understand the changes to the island and the impact of the eruptions. After that, we have our MLPQ study, a database model. In the left is island before eruption, and in the right is island after eruption. We have made an animate about it.
For this function, we want to explore underwater ruins. You can see these two maps. The first map is before the eruption, and the second map is after the eruption. Compared with these two maps, we can get these two areas. These two areas were above the surface of the water before that eruption, but after the eruption, these two areas sank to the bottom of the sea. So these two areas are places where culture sites maybe exist. Let's go back to the entity relationship diagram. You can see these before eruption sections. It contains two parts. First part is left part, and second part is old center. They both contain ID, X, and Y and status. For this function, we can input X and Y as a point. If the point in the area, the output will be like possible sets.
Our next major focus on this project was a risk analysis of the Minoan eruption. There were many aspects that factored into this risk calculation for the Minoan eruption, one of which was the water risk, another was a ballistic block risk, and the last was an ash risk. The scope of this project would have made it very difficult to combine both the island and the region effects from the eruption, so we decided to split this risk analysis into two major parts, one focusing on the site of the eruption in the island, and the other focusing on the region around the island and the ash spread. For the island risk analysis, we can see the diagrams as laid out in MLPQ. On the left, it has highlighted the past land along with the island as a before the eruption, and on the right you can see an after the eruption. The different colors on this diagram, the brown is the island and the land, the blue is the water risk, the black is the ballistic block risk, and the gray is an ash risk. To determine the risk levels on the island, we gave each different type of risk a level. The ash level was a risk level 1, the ballistic block risk was a risk level 2, and the water risk was a risk level 3. We then combine the areas in which these risks occurred to give out the different types of risk at each point. On the left, you can see how we calculate risk level 1 for the areas that are only affected by ash. In the middle, you can see a risk level 3, which were areas that were affected by both ash and ballistic blocks. And on the right, you can see a risk level 6, which were affected by ballistic blocks, ash, and water. To visualize this with our previously created contour map, we can see how this might have occurred, with the ballistic blocks in the radius, and the water, and the ash. Simplifying this into a 2D model, we can see that the green on the island were the areas only affected by ash, the yellow were the areas affected by ash and ballistic blocks, and the red were the risk level 6s, or the water, ballistic blocks, and ash. We also created a function in which to determine the risk at any given point on the island. In simple terms, we made this a risk query in which sums any of the IDs at any given point on the island. For this example, we used x equals 1,000 and y equals 3,100. This area was only strictly affected by an ash risk, so the sum of the IDs gave back 1. However, if it was affected by both ballistic blocks and ash, it would have given back an ID of 3, summing both 2 and 1. To look at a regional risk analysis, as our second part of our risk analysis, we can see two different spreads of regional ash. On the left was the regional ash spread from the northeast vent, and on the right is the regional ash spread of the central vent. For the northeast vent, you can see the black center was where the eruption occurred, and this is where the most dense ash was, between 100 and 750 centimeters. The dark purple was 8 centimeters deep ash, lighter purple was 6 centimeters, blue was 3, and light blue was 1. On the right, very similarly labeled, the black was 100 to 750 centimeters ash, the maroon was 10 centimeters, the red was 6 centimeters, the orange was 4, the yellow was 3, and the lighter yellow was 2 centimeters of ash. To visualize this in MLPQ, we decided to split the ash densities with a time value, or a t value. And intervaling this through the MLPQ system, we were able to animate the projected ash spread throughout the region. As we can see, the regional ash actually spread throughout a majority of the Mediterranean and surrounding countries. For our future work, we would like to study the effects of the Minoan eruptions on long-term climate, integrate more modern geophysical data when it arises, compare the Minoan eruption with other important historical volcanic eruptions to analyze the differences in their impact on civilizations, and determine whether ash and or debris could have traveled further than projected, affecting other neighboring civilizations. Here are our data sources, including any reference papers we used. Thank you again for listening. Have a nice day.